But now, it's time to go to sleep. Anyway, tonight, we have another story time. Yeah. And, this one is a bit sad. But, I think you'll find it enjoyable regardless. So, get some popcorn and get comfortable, because this story is about my green froggy boots. So, when I was pretty little, probably like 7 or 8, I was given a pair of boots that were my absolute favorites. I had yellow galoshes before, and some brown ones too. But on my 7th or 8th birthday, I received a pair of green froggy boots. Green froggy galoshes that were basically love at first sight. I wore my froggy boots everywhere. I played outside with them, went to the store with my mom in them, wore them inside the house, and even went to bed with them once. But my mom told me not to do that again, so I didn't. I also love them because around that age, I also had a Froggy Webkins that I loved, and they reminded me of him. Also, points if you also had Webkins as a kid, because those were awesome. I also had a polar bear, but I didn't play with him as much. I remember we used to go to Cracker Barrel, and sometimes my parents would let me get one from the gift shop. Anyway, that's off topic. Just a fun memory I have from growing up in the early 2000s. So, I loved these froggy boots, and I wore them everywhere. So on one beautiful spring day, I decided to go on a little adventure in my froggy boots. You see, there was this patch of woods I hadn't gone into before, and I wanted to explore them. So, I threw on my jacket and my froggy boots, and I ran out the door. The forest was primarily pine trees, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I remember because I was stacking pine cones in a pile that I was collecting, and that's when I saw it. Yep, I saw something that piqued my curiosity. It was a very swampy looking patch of ground at the bottom of a in the mud, even though my mother hated it because she had to clean up my fur afterwards. But she always let me do it because she knew I loved it. So, I saw this mud pit and thought, well, I have to play in this. I also thought there might be frogs in the mud as well, and in case you haven't noticed, I like frogs. So, I also ran down the hill and jumped into the mud pit and began sloshing around and having a great time. But as I walked around the mud, I could feel myself sinking in a little deeper with every few steps that I took. And it made it harder to move. Sorry, there was a noise. Anyway, eventually it was almost impossible to move, and I was in the center of the mud pit at this point. I realized that I needed to get out as soon as possible and started to try and make my way to the edge of the pit. But as hard as I tried, I eventually couldn't go any further, and the mud was almost to the top of my boots at this point. My froggy friends were nowhere to be seen. I tried, and then I finally had the only idea I could think of as a kid. I knew I had to take off my froggy boots and sort of crawl to safety. The boots would not move. So, after struggling for a little longer, I decided there was no other option. And I did it. I slipped off the boots, right off my pink fuzzy feet, and I made my way to the edge of the pit and escaped. I looked back, but my boots were nowhere to be seen. It makes me sad, but this story sort of reminds me of my own personal version of the scene from The Never-Ending Story, where Artax sinks into the swamp of sadness. Sorry to spoil something from forever ago, but if you haven't seen that movie, you really should. I cried pretty hard during that scene. I saw it when I was a small child, and I swear it's what I think of whenever I remember losing my treasured froggy boots. Yeah, I still miss them from time to time. But on a happier note, I do have a red pair of boots and a brown pair, and I love them so much. So, I guess it was just my froggy boots' time to leave me. But I'll always remember our times together. Who knows? Maybe someone found them, and they had a second life. I'd like to think that happened. Anyway, did you ever have anything as a kid that you were so attached to? Let me know in the comments. But it's time for bed, for me anyway. And you do. So, let's go to sleep.